I'm working real hard on it, so. Yeah. But I can see her, she doesn't want to take it. I can see that. She wants it.
That sounds like a sticker.
I just need to let you know. Well, you, you see they have a sign up? Brand new to me, so. Terry last year. I'm sure that John wants to.
you're the veteran.
Close. Tissues everywhere. Oops, the mic is on.
I followed you on that one.
Mayor's fault, blame him.
Yeah.
It's the mayor's fault.
Make some comments, Travis. Tell them how confusing this is and make everybody listen.
All right. Every once in a while, the teacher has to rearrange the seats. Okay, so we will call this meeting of the Palmer City Council to order at 6 p.m. on October 24th, 2023. Madam Clerk, if you could call the roll, please.
Councilmember Moline, Councilmember Alcantara,
Here.
Mayor Carrington,
Here.
Councilmember Tudor,
Here?
Councilmember Best,
Here.
Councilmember Cooper,
Present.
Deputy Mayor Anzalotti. Here.
And Councilmember Moline texted in sick, so if there's no objection, we'll give her an excused absence for that. Next, we have the Pledge of Allegiance. And Mr. Moosey, could you lead us in the pledge, please, since you're standing already?
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, we have the approval of the agenda, which includes the minutes from October 10th and October 17th. What's the wishes of the council?
Move to approve and approve minutes of October 10th, October 17th.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or any objection to just declaring those approved? No objection, we'll declare those approved unanimously. Next, we have communications appearance. I don't see any elected officials in the audience or board commission members. Staff would have to probably tell me. I'm not sure I would always remember who's on which of our commissions. Next, where'd it go? Here we go. We have a proclamation honoring Veterans Day. And traditionally, you read the proclamation and hand it to someone. So I asked Jim Cooper, who's on the council, but he's also our veteran, if he would be on the receiving end. It's on. Josh must be working on it, right? So this is a proclamation recognizing Veterans Day. Veterans Day has its origins in November 11th, 1918 armistice, which brought World War I to a conclusion. And whereas Alaska is home to approximately 75,000 military veterans who have served our nation honorably and selflessly, both at home and abroad, protecting the liberty of our nation and liberating their oppressed from tyranny and terror. And whereas Veterans Day is a time to honor America's veterans for their patriotism, love of country, and willingness to uphold the nation's founding principles of liberty, opportunity, and justice for all. And whereas by honoring these proud soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guardsmen throughout our country's history, we renew our commitment to upholding the democratic ideals that fought to preserve. And whereas the citizens of Palmer must never take for granted our privileges and freedoms, or forget to give thanks and honor to those who risk their lives so that we may enjoy our many blessings. Now therefore, it is proclaimed by the Mayor and City Council of Palmer, Alaska, November 11th, 2023 to be Veterans Day in the City of Palmer. Call upon all citizens and civic organizations to join in the special observance and recognize the great sacrifice of our veterans and active military members. Would you like to say a word or two?
Thank you. It's an honor to receive this. I accept it for all the veterans living in Alaska. We have the highest percentage of veterans per capita in the state. And I also want to say that I accept this for my father, my son, and I. We have a combined 87 years in the military. Thank you.
Next, we have City of Palmer 2022 audit presentation by Joy Mariner, Managing Partner of BDO USA. Hopefully I said that about right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
It seemed like it went away real quick.
Just
I
restart.
managed to turn it off.
That's what my IT person would tell me.
When in doubt, restart, yeah. The IT guy's looking in now.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Am I okay to go ahead and proceed? Great.
Yes,
So,
please.
my name's Joy, as he mentioned, and I serve as the audit partner for the audit of the City of Palmer. And we had the pleasure of working with your team here on the 2022 financial statement audit, which has been completed for some time, but we're here to present those results to you. You should have received 2 items in your packages, your packets. One is the audit wrap-up, which is our kind of required communication to you as the council. And the other is the rather large financial statement and single audit report, which I'm sure you read every single page of. It's very exciting material. I'm going to touch on a few highlights from the packet that you already have hopefully had a chance to peruse and the key items. The first thing I always remind you of every year is that I do work for you as the council. I work really closely with John and Gina in getting the financial statements out and the nuances of all of the numbers that end up in these statements. And we do assist your team with preparing these, but these are their financial statements. But we work for you as the council, as those charged with governance of the city. And so the process for the audit is we come in and we test a lot of different things. We're looking for material misstatements, things that could cause one of you as a council member to make a wrong decision about your city. So if there's something that might be indicative of fraud or a risk of fraud, which we didn't come across, thankfully, then the threshold for that is very, very low. I would have a problem with anybody walking out, with me being aware of anybody walking out with money or trying to manipulate financial information, even if it's a very small dollar amount. But if something is maybe put into the wrong fiscal year, administratively, it would have been a lot of effort to put it in there, and it's a very small dollar amount. We don't worry about those types of things. Are they being captured is really the question there. And I will just say your team does such an excellent job throughout the year. We had no audit adjustments as part of the audit, and really very successful audit overall. We do assist every year with drafting of financial statements, which includes adjustments for pension, for capital assets, some of those things that don't necessarily hit you on a daily basis in your budget, but have to be reported in your financials. And these statements are prepared in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, so the same standards that are applied to all governments across the whole country. So I want to touch on a few highlights, and then we can pause for questions that might interest you based on what you've seen on the statements. A few quick things. Page 5 of the wrap-up says status of our audit. And a few key highlights here is that we did issue an unmodified or clean opinion on the financial statements and also on your single audit reports. So no non-compliance that modified your opinions related to either. On the next page, one highlight for kind of results of the audit this year, you did implement GASB 87. Most people don't want to know what that is. But really what it means is that all of the leases for the city had to be examined. That's the first time the standards have required you to have a comprehensive list of leases and account for them over the life of the lease. So you recorded over $3 million of lease assets. So things that you have leased out to others, it's primarily airport, but it's not only airport. And then some amounts of lease payables also that you owe to others for things that you're leasing from them. That was quite a big project. Your team worked with our team to get all of those calculations done, and those are actually discounted, kind of like debt, into a present value calculation. Another thing I'll highlight is internal controls. If you turn with me to page 10, we are not auditing your controls, but we do come in and look at what your controls are. And what our controls are, just the checks and balances to make sure things are correct. One big control is you passing a budget. I know you're working on the budget right now. So we look to make sure that controls, reviews are being done properly, timely, that they're designed properly. And then we let you know if there's anything we think you need to be involved in correcting. So if it's significant, what we would consider to be a significant or material control issue, we'd bring that to your attention. We didn't identify anything like that this year. Your team has really good controls, checks and balances in place. A lot of approvals, everybody's signing a timesheet, everybody's timesheet's getting reviewed and approved, no exceptions to any of those. And if you turn with me to page 11, the few control deficiencies we do outline here are what I would consider to be more like management advice suggestions, not something we believe the council needs to act on. And the first two we talked about last year. You do have a super user here. I think everybody knows who that might be. And, when you have a small staff, you often will have administrative level access for the highest levels of those staff. So you do have that kind of super user risk and user access. You don't want to hire 6 more FTEs to prevent that from happening, but we just encourage you to continue to request the financial information you're getting. If you ever see a gap in getting that information, that's when you as a council need to be stepping in, because your kind of back end review of the general fund budget to actual, some of those things we see in your packets is really critical to making sure that the city is still operating well. There's a third one there because there was a new issue this year with the closeout of the insurance trust. That one of the payroll liabilities was a little bit wonky, so that's really a minor item that we just have to mention there. That some payroll liability accounts were kind of looked at a little bit late, and already that's been remediated. Otherwise, we have nothing exciting to report. No difficulties or disagreements or problems with the audit. And I do want to touch on a few financial statement highlights in this 160 some odd page document that I promised not to go through page by page. But let's look very carefully, quickly at what's in here, just so you know for the future. If you look at the table of contents, you do have your basic financial statements, but right before that is the management discussion and analysis. I'm sure you all got to read that already, but if you haven't, it's gives you really good comparative information between last year and this year, what's changed at the city and dollar-wise. And then the basic financial statements are what we audit. You also have a bunch of additional or supplementary information in your statements. And then, grant, for example, you can get details by fund. If you want to go to that level of detail, you can see a budget to actual for the police grants fund or the asset forfeiture fund. And then at the very end is the single audit reports. So let's touch really quickly on the financial statement, just a couple things. So I'm flipping a little bit, but if you can turn with me to page 23, actually, we're not going to spend much time on page 23, but these are your governmental funds assets. So you can see what the city owns. If you wanted to see what's in the general fund at the end of 2022, you did have about $9.3 million in cash and investments. It's your largest asset in the general fund. Keep in mind your largest asset at the city are capital assets, which I believe were somewhere around $89 million this year, but those aren't assets you can just access. You're using them throughout the year. And then if you turn to 2 more pages to page 25, the general fund, what we call kind of the statement of changes in fund balance, this is your income statement. So revenues in the general fund this year, 15.5 million, expenditures of just about 12 million. And then you have transfers out and some other types of things, including insurance recoveries. That was from the windstorm. For a net change in fund balance in the general fund of 1.97 million. One thing I look at it really carefully is what you have in fund balance. So your total expenditures this year for your general fund expenditure is about 12 million. That's about $1 million a month, if you kind of think of it that way. And if you turn back with me those 2 pages to what you have left in fund balance in the general fund, total general fund balance that's unassigned, it's not assigned for some other purpose, was about 9.8. So we have about 9.8 months of expenditures available in your fund balance. And that's a number just to continue to watch as a city council as you plan and you budget. There's not a magic number there. Some of our cities have 6 months. Some of our cities have 6 years. So it's something to kind of just monitor and as you kind of plan for the future. everyone's involved. You know, we're interviewing people over at the airport, we're talking to the project managers on water projects. Everybody's part of making sure you're compliant with procurement rules and, you know, PII rules and all sorts of accounting rules, controls, and they do an excellent job throughout the year. So with that, try to keep it to the brief overview, but I'm happy to dive into any of the numbers or into any of the audit results with you if you have specific questions.
Since she works for us, does the council have any questions for her? Councilman Alcantara.
Yeah, thank you,
welcome
Mr.
back.
Mayor. I'm back. Thank you for a very good presentation. So I think I asked this question last year, but I'm going to ask it again since I'm only my second year on council. So the reason this audit of fiscal year and calendar year 2022 gets accomplished at the end of September and presented to us in October, is that just the nature of the business? You guys are super busy through tax season and then in late April you start working on audits and other things? Or why does it seem to take till almost the beginning of the next fiscal year before this all happens?
So excellent question, and there's a lot of myriad of reasons. So the first answer is yes. If you want to have your audit done in February, it's about 50% more expensive. So typically we start your audit in April or May after that kind of magic April 15th deadline. And so that kind of takes that time. I think, you know, in a typical year, which we haven't had in about 5 years, you would issue in June or July. And actually, Gina and I were just talking about it. Now that we're through GASB 87, we're through ARPA, we're through CARES, we're through all that emergency COVID money. And actually, I think the year before, the pension system blew up, if I remember right, and we didn't get pension reports on time. There was always a reason, and it almost made me mad. But our June 30 clients now are issuing before December. So we're very hopeful that we're finally past all of that. And you know, I'm sure everybody will be excited to come to a council meeting in July next year for me to present audit results. But yes, excellent question. Myriad of reasons, including staffing issues on our end. So I didn't have manager review time until July, August timeframe.
Councilman Alcantara.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So you mentioned there's no magic formula or some cities have 6 months in reserve, some have 6 years. I'm just curious. I mean, they talk about individuals having 3 to 6 months in reserve, and my personal reserve is about 9.8 days instead of 9.8 months. But I'm just curious, there isn't a gap target out there that says, you know, hey, if you're a city of a $15 million budget, you should have 6 months. If you're a city of a $250 million budget, you should have a year. There's nothing in gap that kind of delineates what's prudent.
So there are, when you start issuing bonds, people get a little bit worried about how much you have in kind of financial sustainability ratios. I get nervous anything under 6 months. From a sustainability process, you do have to be able to weather a grant. I mean, you don't get paid on your grants usually until you've spent the money. So if you want to do anything big, you kind of got to have the capital, or you have to go out for debt in order to cover those costs until you have a bond or a grant reimbursement. I think there's a balance there, because if you charge people more either through taxes or service fees and build up a huge cushion, then, you know, you're kind of building up a cushion for what? You know, for an emergency, a potential problem, something, versus charging people what you need in order to operate the government on an efficient basis. I think you're at the efficient basis. You're definitely at a safe level from just a cash flow perspective. You seem to be, correct me if I'm wrong, Gina, be able to pay your bills on time and be able to, you know, get money coming in and money going out. And some of that has to do with the timing of when your property tax monies come in, the summer season sales tax, all of this timing of when you get your money. But, you know, I definitely worry under 6 months. Just, you know, I said it for 17, I've been doing this a long time, so 21 years or whatever, but I've been saying it for probably 17 years. Well, if there's ever an emergency, you might need a cushion. And there was never an emergency. And then COVID hit, and we were like, there were cities down in the lower 48 who could not pay their bills because they had less than that, you know, 6 months. And that's why that money was coming out so quickly, because they were on the verge of bankruptcy, essentially. They didn't have more than a couple of months of reserve. So We say that, but there's not a best practice. It's really depends on your tolerance as a community for kind of a savings account. I'll tell you, some cities really are passionate that they need at least a year. Yeah.
Any other questions from council? No? Okay, you're very
Thank you
good
very
at your
much.
presenting.
Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Next, we have city manager's report.
Yes, good evening. I would like to kind of piggyback on report by Ms. Mariner. What you just heard as city council is really a combination of outstanding work. We're telling our citizens that we have an audit every year. We're put under a microscope on finances, and we're found worthy. We're found to be good stewards. This happens year after year. It may seem boring, but when you're serving community, and you're accountable for your money, accountable to meet your policies established by city council, and you come out practically perfect, that is a really good message. Also, too, I want to kind of let you in that, and was also stated, for really 3 years, we handled this.
Yeah.
Brad back there.
I was looking for it in your report. I didn't see it. I guess I just threw out there, you know this better than most, sir, that people that live in our town and commute to Anchorage, which is a ton of folks, making meetings that get over at 6, it's pretty tough nut to crack. So I just kind of threw out there, it's probably too late for this one, but in the future, if we could at least try to throw a 5 to 7 out there so people can show up after they get off of work, that'd be fantastic.
We can probably convince Gary to stick around till 7 for that meeting, so.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And I'm sure we'll be hearing more from him. Anything else? Okay. Madam Clerk, your report, please.
I don't have a formal written report, but I'm happy to answer questions if anyone has any questions.
Any questions of the clerk? Okay. Madam Attorney.
Yes, good evening. Just been primarily administrative work since our last meeting, contract reviews and so forth, including those that are on today's agenda, of course, have been run through me. I also wanted to let you know I've begun working on the library's policy review request by the City Council. That'll be very similar in nature to the MPO analysis. That's the sort of the same approach that I'm looking at for putting that together. I'm hoping to have that done in the next few weeks before Thanksgiving. Any other questions for me?
Any questions for the attorney? And I won't make any comment about how many pages it might be. Okay, well, next we will go on to audience participation. We'll open audience participation. Reminder to come sign in, state your name, and you have 3 minutes per person.
I'm Travis. I live in Palmer, and yeah, I've written everything down. You inspired me to do it. So yeah, so I'm going to be reading it verbatim, and also ad lib and some stuff. Today's agenda is regarding recycling. As I mentioned before, I'd like to see more recycle bins, not just around Palmer, but in the valley. You've already did a ban on plastic bags and replaced them with paper bags, which is a good thing. So I think I think putting recycle bins is feasible. Think about it. If you can raise up money for bicycles for the Palmer Police and bikes that could easily cost around $1,000 each, how much more recycle bins you could buy with the same amount of funds that were used to buy the bikes? Let's say that could maybe cost like $20, $50 or $100. You know, so here's a concept I want to introduce. Here's a concept I would like to introduce, because when I first came here, me and the mayor had a conversation about it, about choice. Negative freedom and positive freedom. Negative freedom is simply not being forced to do anything, you know? You're free to do whatever, just as long as it, within the confines, you know, of what you're limited with. Positive, while positive freedom is the freedom freedom to pursue whatever you want. What does this have to do with recycling? Well, kind of a lot, because with the introduction of recycle bins next to trash cans, people can have the choice to save the environment or not. I mean, for example, when I go to Fred Meyer's, they have a box where you can put all your used paper bags. And when I go into Fred Meyer's and I see some paper bags in a trash can or some cardboard, I just simply dig out the trash and get the cardboard and the paper bags, and I put it in the where it needs to be, because that's where it needs to be. So yeah, so I like to, you know, with the recycle bins and stuff like that. And I will be writing these pre-written paragraphs for every meeting from now on, so that I will never be absent-minded when audience participation comes up.
Thank you. Anyone else for audience participation?
Good evening. I think I can write and talk at the same time, so I'll talk first. My name is Pat Chesborough, and I'm here as a representative of the Palmer Community Foundation. And I just thought I'd tell you a little bit about it. We had our celebration, our community celebration last Wednesday night, and we're able to give grants to CCS Early Learning. We gave grants to the Palmer Family Park. We gave a grant to the museum for free art classes for kids. And we gave money to the Palmer Methodist Church because they feed kids on the weekend. They give them a package, and they feed 200, they said they're up to 200 kids that they feed over a weekend's time. Palmer Community Foundation joined the Alaska Community Foundation about 6 years ago. And in that time, we have raised about $500,000 altogether. Part of that goes for grant making. Part of it goes for operating and an operating endowment that can keep us going. We currently, Rasmussen helps to fund our staff, and we'd like to be able to continue to do this after they stop funding. We've